I feel like I'm finally back into the swing of things. I managed to give myself food poisoning, so that knocked me out for a week. Then I was sick, and then the life event happened. So all of these things put together have heavily inspired me to change how I structure my work. So I'll touch on that at the end. But now going to the core of this update, we're going to be talking about the party system. I've now built out a lot of the back-end plumbing and also some new functionalities so we can now vote, change details about the party, and get party bonuses and so on. And to do so, I've also added a lot of the functionality needed for the friendship system and for viewing other players within the same map. We also have a new chat system in the making. So we're in the game and you can see we have this obtrusive chat system here now. I've loosely designed it, but essentially I needed this to have the party updates stream through. So I decided to just build out the functionality rather than having some loose ends that need to be tied up with the party system later on. But you can see it's fairly obtrusive when we have this small mobile view. I'm thinking of either having a minimizable chat system where maybe it will just be very, very shallow and you only see notifications of what the chat is and you have to go into a full screen view in order to view the full thing and to actually be able to say something. Or more likely, I will release a game with a larger display resolution so people are able to view more things on the UI at once. Before, I was thinking about making this mobile first. In many ways, I have done with the design, and I think perhaps it's good to continue on this path so that you're not making huge features that are clogging up the display. And if I ever want to release the mobile version, I can keep that option open. And you can see in the corner here, we have this offline for essentially 5 weeks and 4 days, which has been giving me a sense of doom for being so late with this update. But anyways, now we have the ability to actually change the party name. We can change this purpose, and you can see here in the chat, we have this info text to tell us what each player is doing. We do have a voting system for the party for whoever's online, active, and on the map. But as I mentioned before, for things that are very small and kind of inconsequential, I do want to just give people the flexibility and the freedom to just modify it directly. The party purpose is one such thing. But I've also implemented it so that we can vote to change the loot distribution. So right now we have it set to be most damage, and I'm going to just change to make it random. And you can see it just changed automatically because there's only one person online on this map, so we can just change it. But yeah, you can see we have our update in the chat. And in order to test this end to end, I have gone through and actually set it up so that monsters spawn on the map attached to that party. So everyone will see the same monsters, and you're no longer able to just have a local copy of the monsters and their drops. So you can't really cheat and say, okay, locally I'm going to edit this to be 100 of this item instead of one, or I'm going to edit all the monsters to only have one hit point or something like that. So when you attack the monsters, what you're essentially doing is making a request to the server to say, I would like to attack it. And the server is taking your server side character and doing the attack for you on the server side monster. And your screen is essentially just seeing a synchronized version of events. So you're just watching it happen, but you're like clicking around to initiate the activities. So going into this, you can see that there's some bugginess here. I just wanted to make sure that I could pick up some things for this update. So right now we can just pick up money, really. I still have to fix a lot of the bugs so that we can pick up items, but alas, here is where we're at. The bugginess is because in order to make this happen on the server side, I've essentially had to do another medium refactor to change a lot of the systems from being player changeable to the player has to request, or the server handles a lot of the changes to the player system based off of the combat or based off of whatever is on the server. So there's still some systems I need to migrate over, but I'm happy with this for now because we were at a point before where I couldn't even spawn the monsters properly. I couldn't attack them. So if you look at the combat here, you can see it's a bit buggy, but there is a view of the monster that I've added. So I now have a new design where you can see both the selected monster or selected players and also what they're selecting. So I'll show you what the design looks like, but essentially we have the selected view, and you'll be able to see just this part where you have the player selecting this monster. I did think about differentiating the arrow based on the monster, but honestly, I think it's probably better to just keep it simple and to have a consistent user interface because we have enough differentiation with the monster view anyway. So we have both a view for the monster and the boss. And now just going back to the party, I've also implemented party bonuses. We can see right now we don't have a bonus because we are just one player on the map. It's not really a party, but when we have two, it will give us more things, 3 even more, and 4 the most. I've added new stats to accomplish this. And just to show the kick functionality, I'm going to kick out the secondary player. So you can see there's some bugginess here where this is not updating, but this clearly did. And if we were to relaunch the game, I'm sure we'd be the only one in the party. Indeed, it is so. And we can also just leave the party like this. Maybe we'll try that again now that I fixed that bug. I essentially didn't remove anything from the party because I wanted that reminder that I haven't submitted an update. So we've left the party, and yes, that triggered a bug, but this is a great way to see our new server disconnected screen. So I did implement this as well. So we now have a server disconnected screen when the server crashes, and if the server is failing a lot, then we have another screen for just server issues, which I will show you right now because we are here anyway. So you can see this kind of cute computer with the confused look, which I really enjoyed making. But yeah, this is our server had issue screen, and will also take us back to the start. So now that that's out of the way, let's look at the multiplayer experience when we have two different players on the screen in the same party, on the same map, all of these things. So we're going to load up two instances of the game now so we can look at the multiplayer functionality that's been added. And you can see they're on different maps. And we also have in this chat functionality, it tells you your friends came online. They are friends from our last update still. So we can now see that, as it says here, our secondary player is idle in town, and we're going to go to town so that we can become party members once again. Okay, so bugginess aside, we have our two players on the screen. We can actually click on them to see the selection. There is also some bugginess here in reliability of actually selecting it. So many things for me to investigate, but if we go to the manage party section, we can now see they're both on the same map, so they would get a bonus to any experience they would gain on this map. This is questionable for town actually, but I guess you could have a cooking party or a crafting party. Who knows? But yeah, if we go to the monster map now, yeah, we can see that it actually works. It tells you they're on a different map. Excellent. This is questionable over here. And they're both on the same map, but nothing has spawned. But you can see at least the combat is working. The party bonus is working. There's still so much to be done here. But for now, I think this is a good point to exit out of the game and talk a bit about my work style changes. As you can see, it's very obvious that there's way more bugs this time around. And while I feel grateful to be getting back on track and resuming working, and beyond my self-induced food poisoning, I did take a break for necessary lifelong events, which undoubtedly I'm very happy to have taken the time to do, and I'm really grateful to have that opportunity to take the time to do that. But yeah, pretty disappointing update. I feel like I could do much more. And I think my previous decision to just not plan things out super rigorously, not making a huge amount of tickets and then tracking the hours, I understand why I did that. I thought a lot of that was inherited from a very corporate work style that I didn't really want to continue on or like force myself to work too much. But I think there are some things that can be taken from that structure. So for example, I'm going to go back to making tickets and to having 2-week sprints. However, I'm not going to be so hard on myself to make sure there's like 6 or 7 hours of focus time like I was when I was working pretty much all the time, because when you're trying to get out like that much focus time, it takes pretty much the whole day to do it. But I think that I have to go back to a more official plan, because not only did I enjoy planning and having something to look forward to, but I also think that when your life is more than just focusing on working, when you have other things that you're enjoying doing and other responsibilities, I think at least I need some structure to make sure that I'm able to keep track of what I'm doing without having to only have that be the thing that's going on in my mind, if that makes sense. Like, it's very easy to work and plan without a real plan when you have no other thoughts other than working, really. So I'm going to go back to planning, and I think that will help reduce the amount of bugginess, add some more consistency to these updates and the game development, and just generally make me feel a lot more proud of what I'm actually developing, because I don't want to get into this pattern where I can't really enjoy the other parts of my life because I'm thinking like, oh, it's at the expense of the game. And I think also when you don't have this ticket system, it's much harder to keep track of all these little bugs. So I'm excited to go back. I feel like I can't be too hard on myself for slipping up or not doing as consistently well as I was doing before, because I think it's probably a journey to figure out what is the best way to work. How do I see the inherent value in things instead of taking it for granted or taking it as I'm just going to continue doing this without really knowing why, because I was forced to do this exist in the past or because it was encouraged in the past. I'm glad to go forward with this new insight, and I think it'll make it much easier to balance my much more newly enriched personal life with my work. So, very excited for that. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how to balance freedom and structure together. They're probably two separate things. I think sometimes it's easy to associate freedom with a lack of structure because I think when we are the least free, we're also being forced to do things in a very like authoritarian, structured way, tracking things very closely. But structure has value outside of all those things. So we'll see. As for today, thanks for taking the time to watch. Subscribe if you'd like to continue following this game development journey, and I will see you in hopefully 2, not 6 weeks with the next game development update.